Okay. Now, back to some random stuff. What do we got left? 22 randoms. So let's see what we roll next. It's going to be 7. The Vexations of a Shut-In Vampire Princess. I vaguely remember people talking about this when it first started, and then nothing afterwards. Let's see if it's worth it. How dare this industry make me remember that Project Number 9 exists right after I watch a fucking amazing looking Gridman movie. I'm gonna sue. I got through a little over half an episode of Vexations of a Vampire Shut-In Princess, whatever. It's not funny. It's a comedy that's not funny. I could just leave it there, but there's potential for jokes in it. Like the joke where she accidentally kills a guy that's trying to kill her by accidentally like slamming the door on his neck. It had potential to be funny, but it just wasn't framed right. The dialogue is abrasive and unfunny and just poorly timed. The voice, it's not good how do you talk about comedy that's not good without like ruining comedy in general? Like, I could go into the very specifics of like how the voice acting doesn't quite work and how it just doesn't have the right energy. It's just everything about this comedy is wrong. And it's like, now to be fair, this is not the worst looking Project Number 9 show I've seen, but man, that opening scene was fucking... Actually, that opening scene, not only did it look bad, but it also didn't need to exist. Like, there was no reason for it other than to, like, it was it's a flash forward to like tease something that happens 10 minutes later. Did we need that? I don't think we needed that. I would have much rather it just started on her being a shut-in. That would have been a much better cold open. Anyway, I hate all the characters in this. No one's funny. I'm gonna move on. Alright, Shut-In Vampire off the list. Let's roll again and see what we get. It's going to be 13. 16-bit Sensation. Okay, I've heard this one gets fucking wild. Let's see if I end up liking it. Well, I gave it as much of a go as I could, but I guess I was not digging this one at all. I got 2.5 episodes into 16-bit Sensation, and this feels like a story that should write itself, at least in terms of like the general plot structure, but this one keeps taking turns in the wrong direction pretty much every time. Like, mainly in that, okay, so this is like a time travel thing. Otaku illustrator from 2023 gets sent back to 1992 and works on a Bishoujo game because she loves Bishoujo games. And so she works at that company for like a couple days or so, it looks like. Which, first of all, I don't know why they let her work with them. Like, other than the free labor, I guess. But more importantly, I don't understand why the girls at this company like her. Like, they seem to be, like, into her. Like, yeah, this girl's cool, let's let her work with us. Which I don't get at all. I don't understand that at all. But anyway, so she works at a company for a few days, it seems like. And then she, like, gets whisked back to the present. Things are very slightly different. And then she gets sent back time again, but it's to like 1996 this time, so 4 years after the first jump. And what I mean when I say this is a story that should have been writing itself, it's like, it should be like, either she stays in the past the whole time and develops like friendships and relationships with the people around her there and grows into like this job that she actually wants to have, fighting through the frustrations of older technology, or she like constantly jumps back and forth between the same 2 points. So like, my point being, she should be with this group for like a constant string of time so that she actually like gets to know them. But it's like 4 years later now, so it's like basically a reset on the relationships that they have. Like, it's pretty clear that no one at the company wants to work with her anymore because she like suddenly disappeared for 4 years. So it's like, there's no like reason for me to like care about like the relationships between the different cast members and stuff. Also, the main character is really fucking annoying. She, despite it is, and also very inconsistent, like in characterization wise. Like, they make her be like, with no discernible reason, sometimes she is very timid and shy, and then the other time she is explosively whiny. And it's just annoying. She is so annoying. And not the best vocal performance from Aoi Koga. Normally I like her, but not here. She is real shrill and whiny and grating. It hurts my ears. I don't... Also, this show is mid as fuck looking. It is not at all interesting to look at. The main character's design is okay, but that's about it. Although I will say, I got quite a hoot out of, like, I was looking up, like, which studio made this? And I was like, Studio Silver. I was like, is this a spin-off of Silver Link, or did Silver Link rename? And then I look, it's like, oh, it's just another one of those studios that just sprang up out of nothing. They only have a few titles to their name. And one of those titles is one of my go-to hentai. So that was weird. I don't think they look very similar, but that was just really funny to see on Mal. Anyway, this show is like not all that engaging, and I would have loved, like, I think it's interesting to see like all the historical otaku knowledge about like Bishoujo games and stuff, but like we don't really get a sense for like it in the world, I guess. Like, it doesn't, a lot of times it just feels like the anime is throwing Bishoujo game knowledge at us rather than like having it exist naturally in this world and like see people, you know, what am I trying to say? It's the actual like story of this show is not very good. So I don't feel like watching all that much more of it. Okay, sorry, I'm cutting in again, but I've just found one of its the relations to this show on AniList. So the actual title of this show is 16-Bit Sensation Another Layer, which made me think like, oh, is this like a sequel or something? But it's not. It's actually, I mean, it's technically a sequel, sort of, but it's based around a manga called just called 16-Bit Sensation, and it's about one of the characters from the past working at a Bishoujo video game studio. And I'm like, I would much rather have watched this story, actually. Just like working at a video game studio. Why'd you mess with... Why didn't you just adapt this? whatever. Okay, 16-bit sensation off the list. How many got left? 20 entries left. So let's roll the number generator and see what we get. It is 6. What is that? Ikenaikyo. This is probably just a shortened title for something. I have absolutely no clue what this might be, other than vague knowledge of Japanese, but let's give it a go. Wow, that might be the most you are here for the voice actors and nothing else show I've ever seen. I watched the first episode of Ikenaikyo, which I believe the full title is I'm Giving the Noble Lady a Crash Course in Naughtiness or something. And yeah, that's really the only thing that I can say is like good about this. Aside from the premise, I actually think the premise is kind of cute. A demon lord teaching an exiled noble lady how to do like naughty things. It sounds like it could be a very fun comedy. Like if this was like a Doga Kobo comedy, I could see me really enjoying this. But unfortunately, it's not. The animation is super plain and basic and straightforward. The shot composition is super mediocre and just kind of awkward looking sometimes. Very cheap in terms of how things are placed on the screen. The character designs are about as generic as you could possibly get for these archetypes. And the dialogue is too fast-paced. Like, the way that dialogue is cut together and the way that, like, lines are placed is just too fast. There's not enough time to dwell on stuff for there to be, like, actual emotion. It's just kind of like they're spitting stuff out as quickly as possible, which is a shame because this is Tomokazu Sugita and Saori Hayami, which are two of my favorite voice actors, and this isn't their best performances, but you know what? If the point is you are listening to Tomokazu Sugita and Saori Hayami, then they accomplish that because they are very pleasant to listen to and very fun and engaging. Like, even though this is not one of their better performances, I still felt drawn in. Like, if this had been like a real top tier performance, like if Sugita started breaking out his Gintoki voice, I could have really gotten into this, especially if if there had been some good comedic animation to go with it. And maybe if Saori Hayami had been a little bit more pathetic, I guess. Or maybe not. Or maybe she might be fine, although could use a little more oomph. But even so, I was still sucked into their performances. Like, this would make a great... If I could speak Japanese, this would make a great, like, audio drama CD. I would love to listen to this. But as it stands, it's an anime, and the anime is super mid outside of the voice performances, so we're gonna move on. Alright, Ikenaikyo is off the list. Let's roll again. Up next is 4. The 100 girlfriends who really, really, really love you. I have absolutely no clue how I'm going to feel about this show because I've only seen it through screen caps. I am very curious as to how this is going to play out, so let's go. Well, that was fucking insane. I just watched all of the 100 girlfriends who really, 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 really love you. This was definitely one of the ones I was looking out for this season that I thought had some potential. And boy, did it have potential. This was an immensely funny rom-com. I'll be honest, one of the things that I like, I'm not going to say they're lacking, but like, we're not in a short supply of good comedy anime, but there are so many bad comedy anime around them that when a good one comes along, I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm in it, let's go. And this was a genuinely very funny show. It's basically a parody rom-com series to a certain extent with how some of the jokes go, and it is very good at being that parody of exaggerating rom-com tropes to an insane degree that is incredibly hilarious. It's just fun. It's a really fun show about a poly couple, which has 6 girlfriends in it by the end of this. We're 6% of the way towards the 100 girlfriends. I do kind of like that they subtly drop the original impetus for this is like, you have Rentaro, you have 100 soulmates, and if you don't connect with them and make them happy, they're going to die. Because that's how soulmates work in this world. And I'm kind of happy that they quickly gave up on that as like a motivating factor, because if they kept referencing that, it would make the relationships feel very inauthentic and like forced. But they did quickly give up on that and just make it like, oh, Rentaro actually like is interested in them as romantic partners and they in him. So that was fun, and it's like they actually do like have good connections with each other. Like there's like actual like, okay, I can understand why these two like each other. Bare minimum for a rom-com, but you would be surprised at how often that is not accomplished. And so good on them for that. For as insane as this show is, one of the girls' introductions has her talk, literally like one of the lines is like, I haven't tried meth yet, but I'm kind of interested in it. Who thinks of that? Who thinks of that? I think that's the first time I've ever seen meth mentioned in an anime, period. Let alone like a cute lolly girl going like, I kind of want to try meth. It's fucking insane. I had another thought. Oh. That's another thing is like, the obvious comparison for this one would be like girlfriend, which is, we're up to 2 poly rom-coms right now that I know of. I'm sure there are more, but all I know of so far are these 2, and then Gundam Iron-Blooded Orphans. Which is not a rom-com, but it does have a poly couple in it. Or a poly group, I guess I should say. But, and weirdly enough, IBO has the most realistic one. But this one is but 100 Girlfriends is definitely like a step above, multiple steps above Girlfriend. Not only in just the comedy, but in how the relationships are structured, in that it is not constantly fucking combative. And like, there are 2 girls in this who are like competing for Rentaro's relationship, but it's mostly just because they're the first 2, and then every successive one is just like, well, I guess this is how it is. But even then, like, those 2 girls genuinely care about each other and wanting both each other and Rentaro to be happy, so they're like fine with the rom-com stuff. And also are probably bisexual, which was awesome. That was a bit of a left turn. I was like, you know, this kind of makes sense, but I'm still good. It's fun stuff. I had another thought. I had another thought about that, but it was like, I at the beginning, at the beginning, I was a little bit like they used the word like two timing a lot in like the first episode, and I was like, does no one know what polyamory is? Like, is that just not a word in Japanese? Because they use it all the time in girlfriend, girlfriend. And they used it a lot in the first episode of this. And I was just like, there is no way a bunch of Zoomer high schoolers would not know what polyamory is at this point. Like, that's part of it is part of, like, romantic culture now. That this is a common... I'm not going to say it's a common thing, but it's a thing that is known about. Like, I have friends who are in a poly relationship. So, like, I am aware that, actually, I think I might have more than one group of friends who are in a poly relationship. Or at least were. Yeah, I have at least 2 groups of friends that at one point or another, or still are in, like, poly relationships. Maybe that says more about just the people that I run with, but it's like, this is like a thing that is just like known, is my point. So it's like, but I hope the next time a poly anime comes along, they just skip over they very quickly skip over the two timing aspect of it. But whatever. The one thing I'm still super iffy about with this show is when we start to breach certain age of consent things. Because like at the end of the series, the main, like, one of the girls, Hakari, her mother also falls in love with Rentaro, and I was like, I'm fine with this as long as they don't do anything like very physical with each other. And then Rentaro kisses her in the last episode, and I'm like, not sure how I feel about that. I'm leaning towards no, but like, yeah, I'm gonna draw a line there and be like, no, that's not, we're not gonna be okay with that. Yeah, so that's, nah. Yeah, I'm just gonna say no. I'm just gonna say no to that. Yeah, it's not sex, but 16-year-olds should not be kissing a 29-year-old. We're just gonna draw the line there. And I hope that you accept that as my line. But yeah. Aside from that, really enjoyed. Although I did like the mom's plot line quite a bit about the deceased former lover. Although that was very weird that she decided on artificial insemination at the age of 13. Who said that that was okay? Like, now I'm thinking about that now, like, again, it's supposed to be like insane, exaggerated rom-com stuff, but who signed off on that? What the fuck? Anyway, this is a good show, very fun to watch, and surprisingly, decently animated. All the character designs for the girls are super cute and adorable and sexy. I love all of them. I love my twin tails tsundere. And the show does the thing that I really fucking love about where they do like white pupils for some of the characters. They kind of just like swap back and forth depending on like moods and like facial expressions, but like that's just one of my things. I'm pretty sure I brought it up before. I love character designs when they have like the white pupils for stuff. It's just one of my things, I guess. I discovered it first, or I first noticed it with Suiren from Pokemon Sun and Moon. And now it's just a thing where it's like I hone in on it immediately when I figure it out. When I notice that it's there. But like, yeah, character designs are good. Color design is surprisingly good. It's got this very warm, orangish hue to it overall. Orange and like pinkish hue. It gets a little bit muddy sometimes, but like never ugly in an ugly way. The like actual like the when it decides to be like super like exaggerated with a gag, it's really good. Like that one gag where it's like Hakari's like tits and ass get super like inflated and jiggly. I was just like, I was fucking dying. I'm like, what the fuck am I looking at? And this was a good show. I'm still a little bit surprised that this was a good show, but it's wholesome and heartfelt and insanely fucking funny. Got some age of consent issues, but I'll work through it in my head. This is a good show. Alright. 100 Girlfriends is complete. We're going to scroll up about halfway up the list now at this point. I'm going to put it right under the second SAO movie in the number 33 spot with a decent 7. Real fun ride. Definitely enjoyed that. Okay. So now, back to the randoms. Let's see what we roll next. 10. I shall survive using potions. Place your bets on whether it's fantasy or isekai. I'm betting isekai. Let's find out. You know what one of my least favorite things in anime is? When an explanation for something has clearly just happened, and then another character just repeats the explanation. It's fucking stupid. It's terrible storytelling. Nobody ever talks like that unless the explanation was just complete gibberish and bullshit and like nonsensical and they're trying to make sense of it, which it never is. It's just fucking terrible writing. I hate it every time I see it. And this show is like one of the worst examples of it. Because it's like the cut before that explanation is so terrible and jagged and off and like it throws you off that you're already pissed off from the terrible editing and placement of scenes and dialogue. That sucked shit. The character seems completely unfazed, or now mostly unfazed by the fact that some god just fucked up and accidentally killed her. This sucks ass. It's so bad. 3 minutes in, and it's fucking awful. And it also looks what was I gonna say? And she doesn't seem like, she seems like a normal, like, fine person who is just functioning completely normally in society, so the fact that she is taking this so well pisses me off. It's fucking stupid. Also, this show looks like shit. I knew it was gonna look like shit because the key visual looked like shit, which you know a show's gonna be bad when they couldn't even get the single still frame right. Next. Alright, Potions is off the list. Let's roll again. This time we're gonna get, what are we gonna get? 4. S rank Musume. I'm just gonna guess isekai based on S rank, and then it's about someone's daughter. Let's see if I'm right.
Well, apparently I was only half right in that this is not an isekai. It's just a regular fantasy anime, I guess, about this dude who finds a baby girl abandoned in the forest, and then she grows up to be an adventurer. Not that it matters, because I still only made it 7 minutes in, because this show is ugly. This show is not good looking at all. The character designs kind of suck. They melt constantly. I kept getting fucking jump scared by bad animation and bad artwork. Like, a character would turn around and I would go, "Ah, stop it! Go, turn around, go back the other way." And then, at first I was like, as it was going on, I was like, maybe the premise is, like, slightly different than I was expecting it to be, because I was expecting this to be, like, more of a comedy kind of premise, I guess. Like, a daughter goes off to become an adventurer, and then she's, like, super powerful, and she gets back, like, super OP or something, comedy ensues. But I guess it doesn't seem like it's going to take the comedy route, I guess. So I was at least a little curious as to where this might have gone. But then after the OP, it gave us one of the worst action scenes that I've seen all year. Like, the pacing, the stutteriness of how the camera moves throughout the scene, the way things are shot, the way the action is shot, the way the action moves. It's disorienting, ugly, and you can barely tell what the fuck is happening sometimes. This show is garbage.
Okay, S rank Musume is off the list. Down to 16 random shows left. What's our next random gonna be? 8. Under Ninja. I kept seeing this manga being advertised a lot on my timeline because it's being published by Denpa Books, I believe, and I follow them to get some interesting manga. But I never picked this one up, so let's see what the anime is about.
Well, that was at least interesting, I guess. I watched the first episode of Under Ninja. I don't quite know what to make of that, other than the reason I'm not continuing it is because the structure infuriates me. It's like constantly jumping around a timeline between, like, different dates that are about, like, 3 months apart or something, and it never really gets to the action. It just keeps, like, hinting at it. And I checked Wikipedia to see, like, the episode summaries to see if it keeps doing that. And yeah, apparently it keeps doing that. So that's not something I want to deal with. But this is one of those, like, what do you call it? Like, it's something like the Death Note authors came up, like, coined a term for, like, serious comedy or something, where it's like, actually no, it's not. It's a different kind of serious comedy, where it's like, there is comedy happening, there is, like, things that are happening that are supposed to be funny, but they're not, like, treated like punchlines, really. They're just kind of roll with them and, like, expect, like, the absurdity of it to get a laugh out of you. And it worked occasionally, but most of the time I was just sitting there going, like, oh, that was a joke. Oh, that was another joke. So, I don't find this show particularly funny. I don't know why the opening scene was in CG with a bunch of American soldiers, and why they went through the trouble of getting people who could speak English, but they're still very obviously Japanese, so the English sounds fucking terrible. That was weird. And why was it in CG? There was no action. There was no reason for them to be in CG. Like, I don't get why they needed to CG the soldiers. It looked like shit. It looked terrible. I hope that that's not what the rest of the action scenes look like, because then I'll definitely be glad that I'm not continuing this one. But, I will say I'm at least, like, I at least find this world curious, sort of, just because it's, like, so, they are so blasé about it. But on the other hand, there is definitely some very, like, jingoistic, oh, Japan has the ninjas, and the ninjas are, like, the best assassins ever, vibe to it. I don't know if that's being, like, that's supposed to be, like, parody yet, but it doesn't feel like it's a parody yet. It feels like they're just being serious about it. And I could see that leading to some not great places in terms of, like, the overall thrust of the story. So I didn't hate this one. And I liked the weirdness of it, but again, the constant jumping around the timeline pissed me off, and I don't particularly care about anything, I guess, other than, like, some mild intrigue about the world building, so I don't really feel compelled to watch any more of it, I guess.
Okay, Under Ninja, coming off the list. I think we're going to roll one more random for this video before we jump down to our end caps. What's this going to be? 14. Gundam Build Metaverse. Okay, I believe this is like a single episode OVA, or like 1 or 2 episodes. And I think it's on the Gundam YouTube channel, so let's give it a go.
That was really fucking boring. Dear Lord, that's boring. I got through like half an episode of Gundam Build Metaverse. Apparently there's 3 episodes, not 1. And I just kept like constantly pausing it to do something else because I was so fucking bored. Nothing interesting happened. All this is like showing off a potential... I don't know if a Gundam Metaverse actually exists. If it does, there's absolutely no way it looks like this. And if it doesn't, this is just showing off what it might look like, which is every piece of Metaverse propaganda marketing ever. And much like actual Metaverses, this show was fucking boring. And I got like 3 minutes into it, and I was like, isn't this just Build Divers again? But there's like a shop inside the Metaverse now too? Fucking great, cool. You added capitalism to my Gundam escapist fantasy. Fucking bravo. Awesome. I just got angry out of nowhere about that. When that realization hit me just now, I was like, you just added capitalism to Build Divers. Thanks a fucking lot. Also, it looks like shit. Aside from the action scenes, which, man, I would kill for more 2D mecha action scenes in anime. Like, the action scenes were fine. Nothing to write home about, but they were fine. Everything else looks like dog shit. The character designs are terrible. It took me looking up the specific Gundam model that this kid uses to figure out that this is, I think it takes place in Hawaii? I wasn't sure at first, Like, I saw the layout of the neighborhood that this kid lives in, and I was like, this isn't Japan. But they don't say that it's not Japan. And they keep doing this, like the Hang 10 kind of surfer dude thing. And I was like, is it California? And then I saw some palm trees. I'm like, it's gotta be California. But then I looked up the La Gundam, and apparently it's based on a Hawaiian word. And I was like, so it takes place in Hawaii? I don't know where this takes place. I don't care where it takes place, because it's ugly and it's boring. And I'm very happy that Masami Obari is doing his own show now, instead of being tied to other people's properties where he has to peddle Metaverse bullshit.
Okay, Gundam Build Metaverse off the list. And now it's time for an end cap. Musume Season 3! Now I heard this one's not as good as Season 2, which will be a bit of a letdown. But I'm still hyped. Let's see what it do.
You know, I really don't understand mal scores sometimes, because that shit fucking ruled. I just finished all of Uma Musume Season 3, which, if I recall correctly, is a whole 0.4 of a point lower on mal than Season 2. Now, I do still think Season 2 is better, but not that much better. Like, I still really love Season 2. It's like a strong 8 nearing a light 9 for me, but goddamn if Season 3 ain't really fucking good too. I guess I'll just get out of the way the things that I guess don't make it quite as good. One, I think its first episode was a little underwhelming, I guess. Again, it does all, like, for one, it still does the thing that I am still disappointed with Uma Musume on the whole, in that the idol concert parts are just an afterthought. I really like that element of Uma Musume, and it refuses to give me more of it. We got one concert in this season, and it was at the very, very end. And it was a really good concert, too. So, I'm happy we at least got one, but, man, I wish we had more. But also, this, that makes a good comparison for, like, in terms of, like, first episodes between Season 2 and Season 3, whereas, like, Season 2 had this absolutely fucking explosive first episode, non-stop right out of the gate, and ended with an absolutely baller idol concert. And Season 3 didn't quite have that. It just felt like any other episode of the show, I guess. So, the first episode was a little underwhelming. And then on the whole, one of the things that I had a little bit of a complaint about with this was the friendship between Kita-san Black and Satono Diamond not being as prevalent in the first half of this series. Like, we already know from Season 2 that they've been, like, best friends since childhood. And we literally see them sleeping with, like, plushies of each other, which is, like, the cutest thing ever. But we don't really get a lot of, like, really good interactions between them until, like, after the halfway point, when Diamond finally starts becoming more prevalent in the story. It's either, like, just before the halfway point or right at it. I can't quite remember. But once they do start doing that, they actually do like a good job of it, of conveying, like, oh, these are, like, best friends with, and, like, I get it. There's not really a rivalry between them, but they are, like, really good friends. And I guess that's another really obvious comparison to Season 2 with the friendship/rivalry between Tokai Teo and Meijiro McQueen, where it's like that rivalry was like what drove Season 2 so hard, or was one of the things that drove that season so hard, Whereas Kita-san has a lot more like different rivalries with different other people, with like Duramente and what was the other one? Like Cheval Crown, I think was her name. Or no, that's Sato no Crown. Cheval something was one of them. But this season is definitely much more of just about Kita-san, and that Diamond is not nearly as prevalent a character as McQueen was in comparison to Teo. So I guess that would explain why people didn't like this season as much, but I still think this was a really damn good season. The hype was still there. This season taught me that this show is really good at montages, like exceptionally good at montages, where it's like you kind of just take montages for granted a lot of time, where it's like, oh, it's like you just doing this to skip time or fill time, and Musume does both of those, but it does both of those really well. It's really good at making training montages feel like a lot of progress is being made, and like we're actually feeling the character grow along with it. But then there are like the more atmospheric, ambient montages. Like episode 9, I believe, is her like day trip with between Kita-san and Diamond, and like it's just these very long montages of them going to see things and like traveling around, and it was very like engrossing in like an almost Iyashike kind of way, like very relaxing and atmospheric, and it was just really good at that. So hats off to figuring out how montages work. Fucking Kei Oikawa is crushing it with this series. I think he should do more series like this and not like idle series. Like what was it, Shine Post? I wasn't a huge fan of. Like he's still a really good he still directed that really well, but I think his talents are much more for hype kind of things, and then filling in the gaps in that hype with relaxation and fun moments and stuff. But yeah. God, this show is so fucking good. Kita-san's whole arc through this series was so satisfying. With the exception of like that first episode felt a little off, I guess, in setting up her character. And there were a few moments in like the first half where it was like, oh, are we gonna make her like a whiny kind of character? I might not like that, but she grows out of that as the series goes on. I really enjoyed where this character started and where she ended. Really solid, like just very like traditional, well-defined character arc that was just very satisfying to watch. And goddamn, she's charismatic. This Genki horse girl. The extreme training she does with Bourbon was super fun. Yeah. Like, goddamn, I really like Kita-san. Like, where is it? You can, I don't know if you can see it back there, but I got a Tokai. Well, I'll just bring it up right now. This is one of the more expensive figures that I own. It's of Tokai Teo in her usual racing outfit, and I'm thinking about getting a Kita-san figure now, because man, that just the the way that she draws you in, she is a very fitting successor to Teo in a lot of ways, and like that energy that draws you in, that never give up kind of attitude. And I think I really liked like the particular of the arc that they picked for her for this season, where it's like, where season 2 a lot of it was based around like injury and recovering from injury, this one is just like I'm just going to keep plowing ahead, and then you realize that you hit your peak. Like, you have crested your peak, and you're like, well, it is going to go down from here. Do I continue to go down, or do I end it here? Which is very paralleled really well with Gold Ship, who, honestly, up until now, I have not been that big a fan of as a character, but man, her little bit in this season was fucking great, of her graduating from the Twinkle series. Like, she is someone who, like, has passed her peak and has been past her peak for a very long time, and she's the one to point out to Kita-san, like, hey, you're past your peak. That's what you're feeling right now. And so to see, like, the contrast between Gold Ship, who's just racing until it is just absolutely impossible for her to win anymore, versus Kita-san, who wants to go out, like, at her, just on her own terms, like, at her peak. So I didn't even realize that until I was, like, talking about this. So, yeah, really, really strong character arc for Kita-san, and, like, this very much reminded me a lot of, like, when I was in high school, I was in marching band, like, competitive marching band, Bands of America stuff, if you're familiar with that. And a lot of the, like, hype moments and, like, the crowd cheering moments, like, really brought back a lot of memories of that for me, especially in that final episode where it's like, you're doing it for yourself to perform well, but also you're doing it to make the people watching you happy, to bring joy to the people that you are performing this for, or in this case, racing for. And, yeah. The last episode was so hype. And I like how they convey, like, Kita-san's condition in these last few episodes, where it's like, you really feel how tired she is. Like, episode 11, I felt out of breath watching her in this episode. I was like, God damn. She's on her last legs here. God damn, this show is so good, and it's still just as visually impressive as ever. It might not have had quite as many, like, really dramatically explosive animation moments, and I think that's just because the story wasn't written that way. Like, season 2 was significantly more melodramatic than season 1. So there's not as much room for the animation to do these big explosive, like, crying monologue moments, I guess, that season 2 had. But season 3 still had compensated for that in other areas, like, especially in the more, like, ambient moments, again, like in episode 9. Yeah, this franchise is still really fucking good. Now I have to figure out if I liked this more than Over the Road to the Top or not. Oh, that's going to be a hard one. But yeah, love this season. Looking forward to the movie whenever that comes out. I love me some horse girls.
Alright, Musume Season 3 is complete. We're going to scroll all the way up to, dang it, I'm going to decide again. Yeah, we're going to put it in the number 15 spot for the year with a decent 8. Despite the complaints that I had, goddamn, I love that show.